Well, India's one of the leading online travel platforms, MakeMyTrip, is stepping into the future with the launch of a generative AI-enabled trip planning assistant, well designed to transform the way Indians plan and book their travel. This AI assistant aims to help users with everything from discovery and bookings to post-sale support. And this will be across flights, hotels, holidays, ground transport, forex, and even visas. MakeMyTrip says that backed by a network of specialized AI agents, the platform also supports voice, image and video inputs. All this comes on the back of a strong Q4 FY25 performance, with revenues up 21% on a year-on-year basis and a surge across air, hotel and bus bookings. Joining us now to talk about this launch business impact and what lies ahead is the co-founder and CEO of MakeMyTrip, Rajesh Magao. Hi Rajesh, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us. Rajesh, firstly, on a generative AI-enabled trip planning assistant, how will it be deployed and the kind of efficiencies that you're expecting to generate in this business via this AI assistant?
Yeah, sure, Sumita. See the new launch, and we, by the way, already gone live with in beta mode. And what this is going to do and how is this going to be different from the other, the previous versions of Myra interfaces that we had, that this is going to be fully integrated, starting from trip planning, like literally mouth of the funnel, when you can ask for any open trip planning question and then narrowing it down to the ultimate option, and then taking you to actually even doing the booking and also post-booking activity. If in case after doing the booking, if you had any sort of after-sale queries, etc. And what we have done in the agentic framework here, that for the various conversational bots that we had earlier, let's say for flight booking or for the hotel booking or for post-sales, now they're all tightly coupled, and we've added on top of that the trip planning part of it. So, so the endeavor here is to solve for end-to-end, family trip planning or any other trip planning, right from the research stage to the booking stage and then after sales. So that is one part of it. The other addition is that it's going to be multilingual. We are starting with Hindi and English first, and we are going to, over time add more languages, more regional languages as well. So these are the two, sort of big additions that we are trying to bring in here. Now, in terms of how is it going to potentially impact and what kind of gains that we would see, so right now what we are looking at it is to see, how does it get adopted by the consumers, because there is going to be a journey. There's going to be an adoption as people will get used to it, as the interface will become more and more intelligent, as we collect more and more feedback from consumer and insights. And then there is going to be a habit changing element. I'm sort of used to a particular interface right now, and then I have to make switch. And then if I have to make switch, it has to be, sort of more intuitive, more relevant, more personalized, and so on. So it's going to be journey. So we'll be watching this space very, very carefully. But we do ultimately expect is that, we will have new users, given that it's multilingual, especially non-English speaking users, to come more and more on our platform.
Right. Also, is generative AI reflecting financially in your revenues as well? How is this likely to aid your top line?
The efficiencies, we've got some productivity improvement, efficiency improvement use cases, couple of them, and that is separate. So, and that is, on an ongoing basis. When we end up completing a project, it sort of reflects on the reported financials. But the two use cases where we have seen some productivity gains and efficiency improvement are the customer service use case, and as well as the software development. Because a lot of the new software development is happening because there are tools available, and then you can make the overall software development quite efficient specifically for the new codes that you are writing, right? So new pieces of software development are becoming relatively easier, efficient, on timing, and therefore eventually, obviously, it will sort of bring in some cost savings as well. Similarly, automation, the next level of automation on the consumer, on the customer service side, is getting us to some productivity gains as well.
Right. Also, Rajesh, related to the recent geopolitical disruptions, what impact are you factoring in on the travel sector? Now, given there's 50% tariff on India, could that impact the business and eventually consumer spends too?
Like I guess there is development happening every day pretty much, right? So the first important thing is to see where we eventually land, rather than sort of analyzing the in-between situation, if you will, because the negotiations are still on, it's still work in progress, as you know, and we'll see how it lands. Now, from a travel and tourism standpoint, because this is not under the tariff per se, because there are clear sectors where it is under the tariff regime. There is unlikely there is going to be direct impact, but indirect impact. I think we'll be only positioned to sort of even estimate when we have a clearer picture of what's going to happen. Right. So I think it's very early at this point in time to forget about factoring in, but even estimating it, for that matter. And therefore, we're just watching the situation carefully, and we'll see how it plays out.
Right. Rajesh, also bracing for uncertainty, how are you doing that? What would be the focus? Will you shift the focus to other markets more now?
Well, if you look at it from our, the markets where Indians travel, US is an important market, but it is not necessarily, like a very big contribution, from an international travel standpoint, especially for, sort of leisure use case, if you will. For leisure use case, a lot of the Indians actually travel Southeast Asia, mostly 5 hour, 6 hour flying distance. And then they will be, the Europe will be next. And the long haul, really, US, Australia, New Zealand would be probably the last on the stack order. So, there, my belief is that given the fact that, people are spending more on travel, the customers are savvy enough for them to be able to, sort of switch places, look for alternative destinations, and not necessarily sort of not travel. So that kind of trend that we've seen in the past, if there is an issue with a particular destination, they would very simply switch the destination and go to an alternative place. So I don't really see, at least from a leisure travel standpoint, that there is going to be any massive or a dramatic change that will happen.
Right. Rajesh, so what are the emerging travel trends are you seeing that you're seeing in India and internationally as well that will shape MakeMyTrip's focus in the coming years?
The international destinations, I was saying 2-3 factors that play an important role for any new destination to come up. One is the connectivity. If there is a direct flight, that destination tends to pick up really fast. And then it's about visa. How conveniently visa is available. How frictionless is the visa application and the entire process. That sort of helps destination to pick up. And then, of course, creating the visibility, creating more awareness about the destination experience, etc. So these are few factors that play out in consumers' mind, for any new destination.
Right. Also, as far as your earnings are concerned, there's been a slight revenue uptick. Your international ticketing business has shown strong growth, but is that substantial enough? How will you offset any challenges arising due to the geopolitics that's actually ensuing?
Yeah, so as you rightly pointed out, international, both for flights and hotels, have been growing at quite a healthy rate for us. And there are two reasons for that. One, of course, is the macro reason, as I was trying to explain. that people are, willing to travel more and exploring newer destinations, both domestically, international, and as well as international. So we're getting the benefit of that. And then the other thing is that from an online penetration standpoint, international travel use case is underpenetrated relative to the domestic travel bookings happening online. So, we are getting the benefit of that as well. Combination of these two are going to continue to sort of give us the momentum on the growth even in the coming quarters.
Right. Rajesh, finally, how do you envision the business evolving with the rise of experiential and in niche travel segments?
Yeah, so I think, yes, you are absolutely right. We've seen that. That is one of the emerging trends as well, is that, people are sort of being fundamentally becoming more exploratory. I'll tell you a related sort of, use case and data points. So when it comes to domestic travel, people are looking to go to offbeat locations quite a bit. Call it niche travel use case or group use case, and end up sort of staying in homestays out there, right? Because there's a lot of inventory that we built over the last quarters on the non-hotel accommodations, especially for these offbeat locations, remote locations, where people are very curious, very keen to sort of now go and explore, and they're staying there and having a wonderful time there. So we continue to believe that this trend will continue, and we will see our homestays business, growing in the coming quarters and years, and similarly experiential, sort of travel, if you will. Now, whether it happens to be adventure travel, for example, or it happens to be a combination of leisure and pilgrimage travel, for example, or going to offbeat locations, and so on. So we do believe that the emerging trend with consumers is to continuously keep looking for new avenues and ways of sort of exploring travel differently.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Rajesh. We'll let you go on that note, but it's time for us to slip into a short break. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we are getting you more news and updates from the startup world on the other side. To Startup Central. Well, moving on to an ET Now exclusive then. Just weeks after laying off 2% of its employees, TCS has confirmed that it will hike wages for about 80% of its workforce with effect from September. My colleague Sumita is now joining in with the details of this story.
TCS has confirmed in a statement to ET Now where it will be undertaking wage hikes for at least 80% of its employees. In fact, these wage hikes will be effective starting September 1. In fact, that email, which was sent by the company CHRO Milind Lakkar, has been accessed by ET Now. And let me quote from that email. TCS says, and I quote, "We're pleased to announce a compensation revision for all eligible associates in grades up to C3A and equivalent, covering 80% of our workforce. This will be effective 1st September 2025. In fact, the hike will be rolled out for junior to mid-level employees. Now, there's been no clarity on what the exact plan of the company is with respect to the rollout of these wages or what the quantum of these hikes is going to be, but that's what we're picking up so far. And of course, TCS in a statement to ET Now has confirmed the same as well. Why this is crucial? Well, this is coming in just a couple of days after TCS announced layoffs of at least 12,000 of its workforce over the next a couple of months, essentially by the end of this financial year. There have been headwinds as far as the tariff situation in the United States is concerned. There is geopolitical disarray, which perhaps is also weighing down heavily on IT sectors, demand, client spends, and of course that might also be reflecting on the overall revenue output as well. And of course there are AI-led redundancies as well, and this is something that TCS also mentioned in a statement after it announced the decision for layoffs. Another interesting point is the fact that just a couple of days before that announcement was made, TCS stated that it had not taken any decision on wage hikes. So this is definitely some relief coming in for employees with this wage hike effective September 1.
All right, shifting focus then, Ashutosh Sharma, India Head of Investments and M&A Porus is in an exclusive conversation with ET Now, discussed the scope for growth for quick commerce companies in India and also touched upon the growth prospects for Swiggy. Let's go across and listen in.
We own around 24+% in Swiggy, and we don't have any immediate plans of selling that stake. Food delivery is close to our heart. Swiggy is one. iFood is the other one. We own DoorDash, Jet, Delivery Hero, Mr. D in South Africa.
And now even Rapido is getting into food delivery.
Rapido is getting into food delivery, coincidentally. So food delivery we will continue to hold. Our idea again in this segment, because we have this kind of global understanding of what's going on, global understanding of best practices in food delivery, we can bring them to India, we can take them to Brazil and make our portfolio companies much more productive, grow fast and be much more profitable.
And on Swiggy, Ashutosh, when it was about to be listed, a profitability timeline was given, and that was again pushed in May this year. How are you feeling with, ballooning losses of Swiggy of late?
Look, I think for me, this is the investment cycle for Swiggy. I remember there was a time when the same questions were asked about food delivery also. Lots of questions. But today, nobody asked those questions of food delivery. And I think right like then we had an investment cycle in food delivery, we are having an investment cycle in quick commerce now. The fact that quick commerce can be profitable is already proven in pockets. And so for over a long term, I'm not worried about viability of that business at all.
And lastly, I want to understand, looking into the future, a bunch of the companies that Prosus has invested in are looking at a likely IPO. What is the timeline on those IPOs, and what are the kind of exits you're looking at?
Look, I think given the fact that these are quasi-public companies already, it'd be extremely hard for me to comment on timelines because we don't share anything that we are not put in prospectus. So, but you will see 3 or 4 in FY26.
And while Apple is likely to invest an additional $100 billion in the United States, a move US President Donald Trump is calling the biggest investment Apple's ever made. Standing beside Apple's CEO Tim Cook at the White House, Trump said that total US investment now stands at $600 billion. He also announced that a 100% tariff on all imported chips and semiconductors, but exempted companies like Apple that manufactured within the US. Tim Cook confirmed new deals with 10 domestic firms and praised Trump's economic agenda. But experts warn the move could push up tech prices and question whether iPhones can realistically be made in America anytime soon. And well, with that, it's curtains down on this edition of Startup Central. I'll take your leave. Thank you so much for tuning in.